Okay everyone, today we are going to be drawing cherries with crayon and Crayola oil pastel. Something summery and something easy. So I have this little reference picture here of just some cherries that I got. I used Unsplash, which is a pretty common commercial use artist reference photo website. So that is where I got these. And we are going to be using just regular household art supplies in the form of Crayola crayons. These are just ones that I nabbed here from the library. It's a 24 pack, so that's what we're going to be using here. And then for a second one, just to have some fun and compare, I picked up this 28 pack of Crayola oil pastels. They work pretty similarly, but they get really unique with the way that they blend and really catch the light. So I thought it might be really fun to try sort of one illustration, two different ways with different mediums, and really encourage you to have fun along with me. So we're gonna go from this reference photo here, and then just for sort of an example, this is the two that I ended up with here in my sample drawing. So we've got the Crayola crayon over here and the oil pastel over here. Now I'm using marker paper here, which is something you can pick up pretty cheap at just about any art supply store. It comes in just a bunch of different sheets, and I really like that you can layer some more crayon on top of it. It just is a little hardier and takes the color better, but there's nothing stopping you from using regular typing paper. So I've got an example here with typing paper. The differences on camera are pretty minimal. There are a few that definitely doesn't hold up as well with some of the oil pastels, just because it is just made for printing rather than for art, but nothing stopping you from using it, so feel free. So I have my sheet here. This is just our marker paper, and we've got that taken care of. All I did is I used some scrapbook tape here, and I just taped down the edges so it doesn't fiddle around and move while I'm working on it. And then the only other thing I have here on hand is a paper towel. I find that a lot of times the oil pastels have a lot of shavings and crumbs that come off, so you might need to wipe them off every now and then if you're having trouble with the colors. And then one trick I do have is if you're having trouble with a bunch of crayon shavings, how they just get everywhere, especially when you're layering them, if you just take some regular Scotch tape and make a little tape roll, like so, you can just pick it up that way with your tape here. So with this here, we're gonna get started just on our doodles of cherries. Now, I'm probably not going to do a sketch first, but you're more than welcome to, and your colored pencil, and your crayons and your oil pastel will cover it up, so that's totally up to you. So we've got our reference photo off to the side here, and I'm just gonna start laying out some of the colors in my personal crayon box, which we'll see if I have the full 24. They were a used crayon box, so you never know. Okay, so I've just got my base colors here that I'll be using, and we're just going to get started. I'm going to use this side here for the crayon and this side for the oil pastel. And when you get started here, it's important to know that with crayon, you're probably only going to get a couple of layers before it just doesn't show up anymore. So I always recommend going with the lightest colors on the bottom and then moving on to the darker colors on top so you can see them. So I'm just going to start with a couple of base colors here. Okay, so I think that just about does it for our cherries here with crayons. The biggest thing is just to layer lots of different colors, always starting with the lightest and then going to dark, just because it doesn't really take too many extra layers here. So don't be afraid to use a bunch of different colors you don't immediately see. It's not always reds, and it's always a lot of fun to just use whatever you've got in the crayon box and do a bunch of different blending and see what you can come up with. So that is our crayon here. And the tape worked pretty well for getting a bunch of the crumbs off so that it didn't mess up a bunch of the portions of the drawing here. So that is it with crayons. We're going to move on here and do just about the similar work with our oil pastels. So just for a comparison here, you can kind of see the crayons. It's definitely harder to get a lot of dark with crayons. Let's see how the oil pastel holds up instead. Okay, so opening up our oil pastels, you're gonna see immediately that there are 28 colors rather than 24, but we're really only gonna be using just the main reds and oranges, just like last time here, with a couple other colors in between. And then as you can see, well, maybe, but the way oil pastels work is they tend to be a little gummier, so they'll often pick up colors. So that is what the paper towel here is for, where you can roll and wipe off the color until you get to just the green that I'm looking for rather than the blue where it contaminated a little bit. So that's really helpful. And then you can also use little corner bits of paper towel or tissue, and you can blend these really well. You can also use your finger. I'm just not a big fan of the way oil pastel feels on your hands, so I'm gonna be using a paper towel. So same process here. We're gonna get some colors out and do our cherry doodle here. Now something you'll notice right away is that these oil pastels are much thicker and chunkier than your average crayon, and it does take a little bit of time to get used to it. They definitely clean up nicely and look great the more you blend them. So we're just going to keep working with them here and see how we can get it to turn out. And unlike crayon, oil pastel, you can layer lighter colors on top of darker colors. If you have a fancier set than I do with just the Crayola, they should do it a little bit better than what they are probably going to do long term with this project, but they should still work okay. You just kind of have to fuss with them a bit until you get the look that you're looking for. Now, because we are going to be blending these, I am not concentrating as much on putting down a thick layer. I am doing what I can to really combine the colors here, and then we're going to blend them manually. So I'm less worried about how it looks with the lines right away than I am with whether I'm getting the foundation colors put down the way that I think they're looking. You'll be able to tell when the paper or the oil pastel has kind of reached its limit with layers, because it is going to just sort of smear around the top rather than blend on top of the layer in sort of a creamy fashion. It's going to just kind of make a mess and just spread around your color. So you kind of have to just see how it goes. And don't be afraid to just make mistakes. So once you've got sort of a foundation color down, we're gonna see what effects we can get with just a little bit of blending. So we're gonna go slowly and just work in the color and see how we can soften it up and bring it together. Whoop. It's not going to be perfect, and you can always go back over on top and clean up your lines a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's sort of blended out a little bit more, and then we can go back on top and clean up what we were working on just a little. Bring out some of the highlights a little bit more and darken up where it might have gotten a little muddy. Trying to add this purple here, and it's just kind of spreading around the red, so it's just about the number of layers I can really get it to work. I'm going to try a slightly darker color just to see if maybe that'll add on top okay, but if not, that's fine too. And the tape does not work nearly as well with oil pastel because it is oil-based rather than wax-based, so it does not have any interest in being picked up by the tape, but it can help with a little bit of the crumbs here and there if you're having some trouble. So this is it. This is our oil pastel version of these cherries, and I'll put this over top of that one here. As you can see, oil pastel gets a lot of really nice bright colors. They can be a little finicky to work with, but I really like the results. And these cheap packs are really cheap to get at just about any art supply store. Comes with 28 colors. It's very fun to work with. So if you're at all interested, I encourage you to try them out yourself. So now we are going to take off the tape here and then kind of compare this version to the ones I did earlier that I spent a little bit longer on, but you can kind of see the differences and see how they look. Okay, so we have our versions 1 and versions 2 here. They're both pretty similar. And of course our original photo. So hope you had some fun. Feel free to try this out on your own and let me know how the results go. Have fun!